You're listening to the B&H Photography Podcast. For over 40 years, B&H has been the professional source for photography, video, audio, and more. For your favorite gear, news, and reviews, visit us at bnh.com or download the B&H app to your iPhone or Android device. Now here's your host, Alan Weitz.
Greetings and welcome to the B&H Photography Podcast. In their early 20s, most photographers with pro aspirations are still paying the rent by assisting photographers who've already made a name for themselves. But most photographers are not Malike Sidibe. After immigrating to New York at age 13 and now just still the tender age of 23, Malike has established a name for himself, if not a brand, in the fashion, portrait, and photojournalism worlds. Represented by Good Brigade, his clients include Time, The Atlantic, The New Yorker, Instagram, Business Week, Nike, Foot Locker, and Nikon. In addition to his so-called traditional assignment work, this year he has shot pandemic portraits via Zoom and FaceTime and the Black Lives Matter protests in Brooklyn. John and I will talk with him about all of this, as well as his own personal story of coming to America and finding his own voice, including how New York City SALT, a high school photography program, helped him find his own way. It's a real treat to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Alan. Thank you so much for having me.
So anyway, let me start off here. You've been primarily doing fashion and portrait work. As for photojournalism, some of your portrait work can pass for that, but come summer 2020, suddenly you're out there, camera in hand, in the thick of the most passionate protest marches this country has seen in over 50 years. And how did you approach this new thing? How did you get your head wrapped around it?
It's pretty interesting because where I grew up, when I was born in Ivory Coast. There was like a civil war happening in the country, and we had to migrate on foot for a few days and then get to a nearby city and then get on the bus and go from Ivory Coast to Guinea. So pretty much I've kind of seen this before, and when I was younger and moving here and seeing this happening, it was just, I don't know, it made me realize a lot about the world and just kind of take everything in. And I think where my brain just was okay, cool. What are you going to get up and do about it? And that's when I decided, okay, I want to be out there and documenting because photography is what I'm good at doing. And I'm going to use that to get my point across.
You were right in the middle of things. I mean, you were not just an observer. A lot of the photographs I was looking at, it's like you're right in the middle of everything that's going on. And you might not have had a choice, but you also had your mind about you because your eye remained very, very sharp through all of that. And a lot of amazing moments were really, really caught. We'll be talking about some of those photographs, I'm sure, during the course of the show. John.
Yeah, you kind of ran out of steam there. No, but that's kind of where I want to jump into because, as we were saying, a lot of your first, you worked before this year, it was fashion and it's portrait, but you went to the Eddie Adams workshop, was renowned for photojournalism and some of the work you produced there. It's reportage, but it's also portraiture. Do you separate these types of photography in your brain? I mean, or are you just kind of bringing your eye to whatever it is you decide to photograph?
I think I just bring my eyes to whatever it is that I decide to photograph. It's just one of those things. It's just I just love the idea of photography as in whole. It doesn't matter if it's being fashion or protest or a wedding or an event. As long as I have it assigned to me, I think that's what I focus mostly on, and I try to find the best way to execute that. Yeah.
and the stuff you were doing in Brooklyn, were those assignments at first, or did you just get out there? You just got out there, right?
Yeah, the way the journalism actually came about for me, besides getting accepted into the Eddie Adam, I went there. Even though when I was there, the assignment they gave me, it was documentary, but to me, I looked at it as a fashion. It was okay, cool. There pretty much was go out there, photograph what you see, and the fashion sense of the people. And I took a little bit of tips from the journalism photographers I have around me, and then just went out there and practiced that. So when the George Floyd protests happened, the way that came about, it wasn't me thinking, oh, I'm going to go out today and take a photograph of what's happening. I want the best photo from tonight or something like it. That wasn't at all what I was thinking. What happened was I woke up and I had been avoiding to watch the George Floyd video of him being killed. I avoided because I already know what it was about. And like our social media was already blowing up and I was already seeing snippets and I just was like, okay, I'm not going to watch that whole video. That morning of the 29th of May is when I was like, you know what? Forget, I'm just gonna watch it and see it for myself, because even though I know exactly what I was about to watch, I just need to see it because I felt like it was important for me to see these things. And then after watching that video, it did to me what I expected exactly it was going to do to me. It just made me very, very angry. And first, it made me very sad about the world. And I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. And right away, I just called up a few of my friends. I'm like, guys, like I heard there's a protest happening tonight, and I think we definitely need to be there, especially now where the world is at right now. Obviously, it was the pandemic, so most of my friends wasn't really sure if they wanted to be in that environment. But I'm just like, you know what? I'd rather, if I was about to die from a pandemic, this is a way that I'd rather be doing, and because regardless, although the pandemic I know is going to have a long-term effects on us, it's something that I know is going to come and go. But the way people treat each other, these things we need to act on it now, because it's never going to go away if we don't really change. And that was the motive that I had when I stepped out to go out. I wasn't even going to bring my camera in the first place until my friend was like, "Oh, you should bring your camera." And I was like, I'm not going to bring my DA50 for it to get broken or stomped on. And then that was when I just had gotten my hands on the Nikon Z7s, because they're pretty small. And honestly, if it wasn't for their size and the fact that it's very easy to carry anywhere, I don't think I would have brought my camera that day. I probably would have just ended up using my phone. But that's how I came about photographing the protest that night. And that's when everything started. For me.
Yeah, how did you get your pictures out there? Because they were picked up. I mean, I was looking at them in Vanity Fair. Did you put them out there, or did anybody reach out to you? How did you get your stuff?
People reached out to me when we came back from the protest. I still had like the adrenaline in my body was still running. And I was just like, okay, I can't go to sleep right now. Just going to edit the photos. And after I edited them, looking at them on my iPad as I was editing it felt like I wasn't even there. Like if I was looking at images that I'm like, whoa, I can't believe I saw this today. It just reminded me of everything over. So like the rage came back again, just seeing like the way people were being treated by the cops and everything. So I just literally edited like all 700. No, I edited down to like them 400 or 500 pictures or 300. And then I edited all of them. I think probably like 2 hours. And then by the time I was done that night, it was already midnight. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to upload them on social media. That's what happened. I uploaded them on social media and basically pretty much said, oh, this is what I saw today. And then 10 minutes later or 30 minutes later, Andrew Katz, he's from the Time magazine. Andrew has been following my work for, I think for a quite long time now, for beginning of last year. So he's been seeing like the fashion work that I was doing. But when he saw that I was out there that day and actually wasn't really far from his house, he wasn't in town that day, but he was just like, oh, wow, this is like, I can't believe this is happening in my neighborhood. But he reached out to me right away. He was like, oh, were you out on assignment? I was like, no, I was not. And he asked if he could use the images for Time magazine for an article that we're publishing the next day at 7 a.m. So I pretty much ended up staying up the whole night until 6 a.m. Talking with him about what happened the day before.
That was all from the first day?
Yeah, that was all from the first day.
Holy man. Now, when you were looking at those photos, were you saying to yourself, these aren't even my photos, they're someone else's work? Or that's the feeling I had. Like I was looking at like that night I pretty much the only reason I went home that night is because I was out of memory card and all my friends were tired and it was getting late and things were just getting crazier. So that's why I was out of memory card. I was like, okay, I think it's just best for us to all go home because our phone was about to die and things like that. And it didn't look safe outside. So that's how we ended up going back home. But when I was looking at the images, it was just like, I was like, wow, like it was like pretty much 1,500 images from that one day. Not even like the full day. It was like, I think I was out for like 4 or 5 hours. And just looking at those images, just I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It felt like you said, it felt like I didn't take them myself. It really wasn't until you got back home and looked at them that you kind of started to look at this with the photographer's eye, or was there a moment when you were out there in the protest or shooting and you said, you know what, I'm not protesting anymore right now. Now I'm taking pictures.
No,
happen?
the whole time I was protesting, I was like, especially, well, at least the first week, because after a while, like I had, like it started becoming an assignment, right? Like people started hiring me to shoot. So it was more like I had to focus on an assignment, and try to get away from any trouble and anything like that. But the first year, I was pretty much raging with my friends. We were mainly there just to protest and to have our voices heard. So we were chanting, we were following the group. We personally didn't start any altercations with anyone, but I was pushed that first day, and one of my friends, I was pepper spray that first day. I had never experienced pepper spray in my life from prior to that before. But yeah, that's what happened.
Well,
something I'm a little bit curious about, and again, it's kind of a nerdy question based on the passion of the conversation that we're having and the level of tension of the subject itself. But from your background, again, fashion, portraiture, and stuff like that, you have a certain way of working and a certain relationship with your camera, even your viewfinder, how much you'll look through it as opposed to watch the person you're photographing or the situation you are. Looking back on things, was your head in a different place doing this kind of photography where it's a different kind of a thing? I mean, you can actually get hurt while you're doing this, and it's not just because you're taking pictures of a beautiful model on the edge of a cliff. There's some real clear data. Were you relating to what was going on? Were you shooting more from the hip, or were you still concentrating on your viewfinder as much? I'm just curious.
I don't know. I don't really, I don't remember what I was thinking, but like the whole time it was just me. Cause this is the thing, like once I have a camera in my hand, my brain automatically think about pictures. Like, my brain's like, okay, what's interesting to me that I want to put in, one that I don't want to capture and look at it later.
You're at one with the camera, basically.
Yes, pretty much. Yeah. So once I have the camera and knowing the fact that I was at a protest, I feel like what I was just paying attention is, okay, what's happening in front of me? What are the energy that people are having? Are they angry? Are they yelling? Is somebody throwing something? So like just kind of almost predicting that moment before it happens in a split second. And it's not even like something that I'm like, oh, I'm planning it or I'm sitting down and thinking about how I'm going to do it. It's more like almost like a muscle memory, because I'm always like, I was just kind of active, like, just looking, and like I'll see, let's say like a girl is talking back and forth with the police, and the police is like reaching for his baton or has his hands on his baton or pepper spray. Based on that energy of the conversation, you could tell either, okay, this is that thing's gonna happen, or the police officer look very angry and he's gonna trying to do something, or he's trying to instigate something, or somebody's about to throw something. So it's just kind of paying attention to those and having your camera in hand. So it's like, when you see something happening, or like say somebody throws something at you, your brain just automatically raise your hand at the perfect time to catch it. That's pretty much what it was for me. With the camera in my hand during this process. Even though I had my friends with me, they were pretty much near me the whole time, unless when I see something from afar, I run away and go capture it really quickly and come back. But we were always watching each other's back. And the main important thing that was very important, just kind of making sure, okay, if things get created on this corner, where is my exit? Where am I going to leave? Or how can I make sure I don't get hurt? Do I have water in my bag? Do I have milk in case if I get pepper spray? So it could help me see like all these things, and also making sure that I know where my friends are. So like every time I take a few pictures, I'm always looking back to make sure my friends are behind me, and they were always there, and like, and they'll tap me or like tell me if something's happening behind me, or like I'm about to get pushed or something. But
good to have an assistant, eh?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, except they weren't assistant; they were just my friends.
And you said you were shooting. Did you shoot all that with the Nikon, with the Z7?
Yeah.
Okay.
I shot all of that with my Nikon Z7, with my 2047. Literally all the protest images were just with that one camera. It's the one that I carry with me everywhere.
Did you have any battery issues? Did you carry a few with you for these?
Yes, I definitely carried a few battery. So I have like a camera bag that looks like a backpack. I got it from Wonder. So shout out to Wander. Their backpack is super amazing. What I do is pretty much like my backpack every day, wherever I'm going, it has a camera, 2 batteries, and a flash, and then a couple extra batteries in the back. So I'm always carrying a few pounds with me everywhere you see me. So I just, just in case if I need it or if there's a last minute assignment, there's nothing I feel like I can't do with just those 3 or 4 things.
Let me jump over to another thing you've been doing since the pandemic and recently, because it seems like you're taking advantage of, or that's not the right phrasing, but you're adapting to what's going on. And that's, but on a whole other level, you adapted to doing Zoom and Facebook portraits during COVID and shutdown. Now, is that something that, did it take you a while to kind of get into this idea that this is something I can do and I can make good work through these mediums, or did you jump right into it at the beginning of March?
So with the Zoom, the way it came about, so for me, like, I've always been obsessed. Well, like, I've always been obsessed with photography, but I'm also like always taking photos on my phone. I literally have about 50,000 pictures right now on my phone. Like pretty much like I'm always experimenting. Like I'm very good with iPhone photography. I know how to use the f-stop on the iPhone photography, which a lot of people still don't really know about the iPhone. So I've always been used to taking photos on my phone and trying to be creative with it. So when the pandemic happened, the first few weeks, I was just like, okay, what does this mean to me as a photographer? And me and my agent will always talk, and she would tell me the things that she's heard from podcasts she's been listening to, because I know the photo industry was pretty much going crazy when it started, and everybody was trying to figure out what's next. And it was just like I couldn't hang out with my friends, so I would just like call them on FaceTime and spend all day with them chatting while I'm with my little brothers and things like that. And my friend Nate Cardi, his full name is Natalian Cardi. He's a model currently signed to Red, and he's very athletic and he's very good looking. And I've been photographing him for years, since when I first started photography. And we were just like, what if we tried out like a FaceTime photo shoot? And that's how it first came about. And then he wasn't the first person I photographed, but I had another friend in LA who I reached out to. She was like, hey, some people been doing FaceTime photo shoots, but I think you do really cool too if we do another one. And I was like, let's set it up. And it was funny because she had the latest iPad Pro, the 12.9 inch, and I had just got mine too. So the camera quality on those iPods are really, really good. So pretty much I called her, and she told me what she had available, and she had like a really good source of light coming into her house. And I was like, all right, I utilized that and pretty much snap some photos. And the photos are not like, the quality of the images are not the best like the cameras, but they're good enough for the eye. So I use that to my advantage and just kind of create something beautiful compared like my other work.
Can you tell me just a little specifically about how you did it? I mean, she was using her
so she had her iPad, and she was living with her boyfriend at the time, and he was holding the iPad, and they both had on the AirPods, so they could both clearly hear me. And what I did, I didn't have any lighting, I didn't have any lights available. It was just sunlight coming through her window, and she lives in LA, so you could tell it's very sunny. And her walls were pretty much white, and I was like, okay, the only thing missing from here is color. And I was asking her, what does she have that might be able to be reflective? She's like, oh, she has a mirror. I was like, okay, cool. That mirror is good because I've used that before on set to reflect light on a model's face. And I was like, let's use that. And I saw she had this little makeup pouch that was very colorful. It was one of those clear plastic, but it was like neon green clear plastic. And I was like, what if we put the mirror and that pouch? And then that's what we did. We put the mirror and that pouch, and we reflected the sunlight onto her face, which gave it like this little almost like using a snoot with a gel on it. That's pretty much what we did. We just used sunlight with a mirror and a little colorful pouch. And then, I was just directing her through FaceTime, telling her what to do and directing her in her position, facial expression, and then asked her to bring in some props. But everything in that image was just pretty much done from nothing. And that's when I was like, okay, this is fun, and I want to do more. And me and my friend Nate, he was like, yep. Like I called him up a few weeks later. I think it took me a month after before I started the second one, because I didn't really knew I really wanted to do it. And then we pretty much set it up, and yeah.
And did you evolve it? I mean, did you end up? I don't know.
Oh yeah, like recently, actually, I've been doing a lot of FaceTime photo shoot. I've actually started doing assignments,
specifically assignments that they requested that it's a
FaceTime. Yeah, like recently, I did a few assignments with subjects that didn't, feel comfortable because of COVID and stuff like that. And I was like, no worries, like I could set it up as long as if you have one other person in the room. And the house that lives with you that's willing to help out with, moving the stuff or position, like, moving the equipment. And I've came up with my own equipment list to send to models if I'm doing the first FaceTime shoot, which is like, a little tripod for iPhone, the iPhone tripod. It could even be a selfie stick, and then sometimes I even use like one of those construction lights from Home Depot. So like I put together pretty much like a list of equipment that's under $50 that the models could get, or I could sometime buy and ship it out to them depending on the assignment, or if it's personal shoots, things like that. And and the Apple was really nice enough to, the ones that I did with my friend Nate, they were really nice to send me an iPhone 12. They shipped it out to the model, and then we made it happen because the iPhone 12 have the latest cameras on it, and they're really, really
I'm just
good.
curious, did they see your work and reach out and know you were doing this, or did you make a request to them?
Yeah, it's funny how that came about. They reached out to me via Instagram, and they were like, it looks like you use iPhone because your profile picture, but at the time my profile picture was a selfie of me looking into the mirror with the iPhone in my hand. So that was kind of funny that's what they saw, and they looked at my photo and they liked it, and then they reached out to me. But yeah.
Cool. And what do you think about your interaction with the models through FaceTime? Does it equate more or less what the real thing would be?
Honestly, it's pretty much the same in terms of conversations, because every time I'm in the studio, my whole process with photography, like my whole thing is like, the more comfortable the models are, the better the images will come. No matter how sick of a lighting you have or how amazing your lighting, that if the models don't look interested or excited for the shoot, or they're not they're not comfortable speaking to you or being in front of the camera, the photos will not come out the way you want them to be, no matter how good they look quality wise in terms of lighting. That's how I feel about photography. So my whole thing with the models is just talking to them like a regular person, and getting to know them, and just, it's not even so much like, getting to know the model, but it's just like when you speak to a person, when you're comfortable when speaking with the person, or if you can't wait to get out of here, you could tell, and that the person. So it's just kind of feeding off that energy. So to me, the FaceTime shoot and the studio shoot is pretty much the same energy. It's always good time, a lot of laughing and posing, and yeah.
We had a similar transition doing the podcast because, again, with few exceptions, when we would do a Skype interview, our guest would be around this old wood table. You would be sitting opposite us. And again, the body language and the eye contact and little things, subtle things, which you're not even aware of, go into this. Now, all of a sudden, when you have a screen going on, or now a case where we're in 4 different locations talking to each other, there's a certain chemistry for sure. But did you have a hard time breaking through that? And do you find it still to be an issue at all, if it was an issue for you?
No, I don't think it was at all for me, but I'm only speaking for myself. But I know that's something that, because, for example, me, when I'm in the studio or when I have a camera in my hand, I'm the happiest person, and I could talk for days and I could go on about it forever. But as soon as we were doing this podcast right now in person and there was cameras on me and stuff like that, I would just freeze. Like, that's the kind of person I am. So I totally understand when it's hard for people to kind of transition from things like that. But for me, I didn't really feel that way at all. I felt like I mean, maybe it might be because I started out doing that with my friends, and when you FaceTime with your friends, just all jokes and things like that, and that's pretty much what it is. And I think the reason why if anything, I feel like the subjects are even more comfortable when they're in their own home and they're just talking to a phone, because when you're in your comfort zone and being somewhere outside, it's totally different, and like, I feel like doing the photo shoots through FaceTime, it gives me that freedom. It gives them that freedom to be comfortable and experiment with this. Because sometimes you might direct a model to pose certain way. Like, it might feel weird, but it looked really good on camera. And having the FaceTime, doing this on FaceTime, and they get to see themselves, and they see, like, it's almost like looking into the mirror and finding that good spot when you put on your outfit just to see how you look, so it's kind of playing around with those ideas. And just also, like, one thing that I find helpful when I'm working with models is just always reminding them, like, this shoot is not for me, it's for me, it's for them. And also, even though I'm just here to snap the photo and get out of their hair, but my whole goal is to make them look beautiful. So no matter how much photos we take from this shoot, I'm going to go through every single one of them and make sure that I pick the one that I think is the most beautiful one. So also reminding them that while you're shooting, and just giving them that confidence, I feel like is a main key that helps me break out of that, break that barrier.
Okay, we are going to take a short break, and we come back more with Malike Sidibe. Stay around and stay tuned.
We hope you're enjoying this edition of the B&H Photography Podcast. The best way to support the show is by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. For links to gear and more information on today's guests, check out the show notes in your podcast app, or visit our homepage on the B&H Explorer website, and join the B&H Photography Podcast Facebook group. And now, back to the show.
Okay, we are back. Before we move on to a couple of things, I want to go back to a couple of photographs. We were talking a few minutes ago about the protest photography and the images you were seeing. And you mentioned one thing about there was a police officer really kind of aggressive against this young lady, and she's backing up. It's a very striking, bold image that really says an awful lot. And then there was another picture. And that was and you mentioned it in the Vanity Fair article, and that was of a police officer, and he's got, it's like a head and shoulder portrait, and he's got blood on his shirt, a white shirt, and he's looking at the camera. And you make mention that, yes, you look at that and you say, whose blood is that? I mean, how did it get there? But what caught me about that, and it's funny, and this made me think about how we interpret pictures. I looked at this officer's eyes. And there was almost a little bit of a humor to the eyes. You could, depending how you look at it, it could be semi-terror or fear, or it could be a smirking set of eyes, and you could see it both ways. And with the blood on you could read that so many ways. And again, that's true of photography. If you ever step back and listen to people talk about your pictures, if you ever had them hanging on the walls, you just want to fall off your chair laughing, hearing how people interpret your stuff. But this is one picture where I looked at it and I'm saying, I really don't know what to make of those eyes and that blood. And this picture has troubles me a lot. I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, it's so funny because I literally ask myself the same questions, because I'm looking at an image right now, like as we're speaking. Every time I look at it, it's just that's the same question. I'm just like, I can't seem to figure out, and the way he's looking, you can't really tell, because usually when you look at people's eye, you could tell if they're smiling, and you could tell if they're laughing, and you could tell if they're being serious. But this guy, I can't really tell at all. It's like a straight on, like, he's just looking, and the blood on his shirt is just, and it's striking even more because he's wearing a white shirt, and other police officer wearing a darker color shirt, you won't even really see unless you look really closely or you're close to the person. But him with the white shirt, him working, you could see it from afar. That also raised another question, like, was he the only person working around that day with blood on their shirt, or were there many officers with blood on their shirt, but you can't tell because their colored shirts are dark? Which also brings the other questions, like, okay, who were the people that they were dealing with when this happened. You know what I mean? And like you can't like you build so many pictures in your head based off of this one picture, like so many stories. But I mean, I feel like I could easily, try to look up his name and try to find, but I feel like I don't even want to do that. I don't even want to find out. I just like, I don't know.
Well,
it's
also
very interesting.
It's also, he has the mask on and he's pinching it. So it almost feels like if he pulls that mask down, it's kind of echoing what Alan says, he might have a smile on his face.
Is it a smirk or is it equal fear that everyone else is feeling? And that's what you don't know. And it could be either way. You could make that picture go any direction.
Exactly.
It's very powerful.
Well, a lot of the images from the protest have this quality that it's I don't mean this in any disrespectful way, but it doesn't quite have a photojournalistic sense. I mean, it feels like somebody brought their camera to a protest and they're taking it's somewhere between a snapshot and a photojournalist image. And I think that is
composed. I think you have to put that too. They're all really well composed. I mean, snapshots aren't always, but these are trained pictures.
Mm-hmm. It's so funny because when I first joined NYC Salt, I know we're going to talk about Salt a little bit more later, but when I first joined Salt, the first mentor that ever set me up with was Michael Bucheri. He's an editor at Getty Images. Michael, I feel like really helped me, helped shape the way I see photographs now, like the way I think of a good picture. He gave me my first assignment ever, which was to photograph my friend Devin. I got Devin in the studio. I was photographing him for hours. This was like my first studio photo shoot ever. My first time ever using the light to shoot in the studio. I was super excited. I was like, this looks great. Like the colors, I love the colors, all of this. I went and showed him the picture. He was like, remember when I told you I was going to be brutally honest with you about your work? This is the moment. So get ready. And I still have this image, this email. I still have this email of him telling me how horrible my picture looked from that day. But also the other thing that he added onto the email towards the end was about how I could make that specific image better. Overall, I'm mentioning this story because what I ended up learning from him or realizing from him was that, like, a picture could be a picture. You could just snap a snapshot, but it's not the same as a photograph. You have to kind of tell like the story from your own perspective. Like, I could have taken a photo of this police officer from the side, from from him walking, like shooting from the back, and like it would have looked like you'll still probably see the blood on him, and so, but it wouldn't have been interesting if I like the one of him with in front, like straight on dead on him, or I could have just photographed him from afar running. He was like, if you want to make people, you have to draw people into the picture. You have to make them care. You don't want to show them a hint of something and not show them the full thing. Whatever it is that you want to show them, you have to be right there in front and just photograph that and show them the blank, like the rawness of the moment. So that just go back when you guys talking about the composition and things like that. And I feel like, every time I'm photographing, that's what comes to my mind. I'll see something, I'll take a shot of it, and I'm just like, okay, maybe I see what I'm going for, but I need to know exactly what I need to photograph. So I'll change my position, go in front of the action, photograph it, or, it's either that or I feel like I shouldn't really show it at all, I feel like that right there kind of really helped me learn more about composition, learning more, like, I have to pick and choose what I put in front of my camera, and I could change that by moving, getting closer, moving far away, and things like that. It just kind of giving me that, just realizing you have that freedom to snap the image from any angle that you want is very important.
Let me ask a quick question about that. I'm looking at another image from the protest, and there's a person being held upside down by a couple of officers.
Yeah.
And but in the left-hand corner, of the image is the back of the head of another officer who's kind of watching what's going on. It looks like,
Yep.
It looks like you caught the back of his head with a little flash, or there was a light. Now, did you try to get a second shot where you went in front of him and got a more direct image of what was going on, or
I tried to do that for this one image. It's funny because I actually have the image of this boy standing while the officers are approaching him. And I have I think it's almost like a GIF when I was editing it. It's like them getting closer, grabbing him and flipping him upside down, falling down. When I wanted to show that image, I originally wanted to show it as that sequence so people see how it started and how it ended it and how did it need 5 officers to just do that one arrest of this little kid. And he was on his bike. I started taking the image while I was standing in front as he was coming towards me. And as the officer started getting closer, they started pushing people away. So I didn't really get that image from the front while like he was upside down, but I got the image from the front while he was while he was kind of pretty much riding his bike away from the cops. And it was just very interesting seeing like, I think it's like 5 images of him. Like they go running after him, grabbing him and flipping him and literally make him fall on his head. Yeah.
And did you choose that one then as the one that was going to kind of go out there, or was that something chosen by an editor?
That's a very good question. I don't remember because what I do, like, I think I probably sent all of these to the editor because something like this, I want to send all of it to them. And I think they ended up picking this one. But on my website, I ended up putting the one of him upside down just because I had so many other images, and I'm just going to pick the ones that tell the story and upload them. But the ones that ended up in the magazine, all of it was selected by an editor after I went through the full images and picked out my selects and send it over to them. And then like when I go out to protest, I usually, if I take about 2,000 or sometimes even like 1,500 pictures, I'll edit it down to 100 or 120 images. Usually my edits are lower than that, but for something like the protest, every picture pretty much look different and they all have different stories. So it's a matter of just figuring out which story is more important to tell.
How'd you do captioning, or did you not even really get much of a chance?
Well, like when I was going out to shoot like every day, I pretty much did it. Even though it's funny because I knew I had to do the caption a lot, but I didn't have any time. So I'll end up sending them without the caption, and then later on when I get a second, I'll go and put the captions in and then send it back to them. Or what I did with Andrew, which actually was very, very helpful. After I sent him the images, he would call me on the phone, and then I'll run through with him throughout what happened throughout the day. And then based on which images he picked, he asked me specifically about those images and asked me what's going on in them. So like we kind of talk over the phone, if not an email. I'll just tell him my whole story of like how the day went, how it started, and how it ended, and he will
kind of like this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
let me change subjects a little bit here. As we talked about at the beginning of the show, you were born in Cote d'Ivoire. You had to flee and you moved to Guinea, and then you came here when you were 13.
Yes.
Which, great, it's just a great story already. However, my question is more about your visual language and how much of it do you think you developed before you came to New York? I mean, do you feel the influences of African photography?
Pretty much like for me, I don't know. I feel like my inspiration a lot of time it just comes from life, like from the places I've been, the people I have around me, and the stories that I'm interested in, stuff like that. It's not really my images are not really inspired by other images. It's mostly like my life stories, like what I've encountered, the people that I've met, and the different cultures I've been exposed to. And I feel like that's what kind of helped me diversify my work. Being born in Ivory Coast and moving to Guinea, and now like moving to America and having to travel all these cities and states in America and meeting different people from different culture. Seeing the difference between a New Yorker from Brooklyn and a New Yorker from the Bronx, or like a New Yorker from New York and a New Yorker from upstate New York, just all of these different personalities and different stories and different passion from all these different peoples that I've encountered, I feel like is what mainly inspired my work. And that's why I try to diversify it in colors and people and stories that I tell. And I can't really see myself doing one kind of photography because God knows I easily get bored. So I gotta find other things that are interesting to keep doing. So like, I love doing fashion, and I think I will always do fashion, but I feel like I need to balance it with other different kind of work. And I'm always doing personal projects. I feel like that's how I mainly get my inspiration, just through life experiences.
What made you
And
pick up a camera to express these? Because again, the things you're telling us, there are many ways you could express these. It could be the written word, it could be a number of things, poetry. But you chose a camera, and do you have any idea why they need? What triggered that?
So when I was younger, I was really into drawing. But I was those kind of drawers, like people that draw, like I only could draw if I'm looking at something, I can't draw anything from my head. So I was like, okay, cool. I can't really tell my own stories if I only could do things that I see, like if I can't come up with my own things in my head and put on paper. And then this was when I was super young. And then the first time I was ever exposed to an actual camera was when my dad came to visit me in Africa for the first time, because he moved to the States after a week after I was born, and I didn't really get to see him until like 2008. When he first came to visit me, he had like this film Olympus camera that he was carrying with him to take photos. And then he left it with me when he was coming back. So that was when I was first exposed to photography. But at the time, I didn't know that's what I wanted to do. And then I moved to America. I knew I was really into fashion, and I was into beautiful things, like fashion, like art and all these things. And I thought fashion was my way of expression. And then I started taking classes at FIT. When I was in high school, I took like Saturday classes. It was pretty much like a program for like 2 years. And that's when I realized that I didn't really like making clothes, because every day we'd go in, they would give us assignments to make clothes. And I was just like, this is not really for me. I love the idea of making clothes, and I love like styling them. I love the story that fashion stories and things like that. So I was just like, I need to find something else to do. And then I transitioned from that to styling, becoming a stylist. I started reaching out to my friends and styling them. And then I saved up and bought myself a camera just so I could kind of come up, like build a portfolio for my styling jobs. And that's when it transitions from being like, okay, like I'm taking these photos for styling. Then me being like, okay, these photos need to be great. They need to be this, they need to be that. And then I realized I was shooting more. And then I was like, I'm not really doing this for the clothes anymore. I'm just doing this because I love taking pictures and I love being creative with it, and love doing things. And then, I just kept doing that. And then eventually Salt came along. And that's when I really realized, okay, photography, this is really what I wanted to do. This is my passion. This is my number one thing.
Well, I can tell you, I'm not saying you've not had your challenges in life, boy, but you've had some good turns along the way, especially the past 10 years, I would say, just from everything that you're saying right now.
Oh, definitely. I'm still kind of learning English, but I remember when I didn't really speak English at all. So I definitely see how far I've come and some of the things that I've had to accomplish. So it's just, I'm pretty sure this is just the beginning. Can't imagine.
Yeah. Well, your English is absolutely fine, especially considering you're learning how to speak English in Brooklyn. I'm from Brooklyn, okay? You're doing quite well. I just want to let you know that. Okay.
Yeah. Like it's like when I first moved here, I couldn't speak nothing in English. I remember when the first assignment I got at middle school, I didn't even know we had an assignment. I just came back the next day. They're like, "What's your homework?" And I didn't know what the word homework meant. And I kind of realized it when I saw everybody was pulling out their homework, and then started laughing at me not having my homework. So that it's been very interesting.
I mean, let me ask the classic question. I mean, do you feel a drive and an ambition that is some maybe fueled by, coming over here as a young boy and having to go through the immigrant experience? I mean, does some of that fuel you?
Yeah, definitely. Because I remember I was one of those kids back home that was just like, I would watch movies and be like, oh, I want to live life like these kids. Like they got all the toys they need, and they have electricity every day. They could play video games as long as they want, and they get to do things like they have. They had things accessible, and like seeing that in the TV and stuff like that. Back home already, I was like, I was that one kid that, everybody just look, he's just Malik. Like, like I wasn't really like no one else. I was kind of always doing my own thing because of things that I know I wanted to do. So from the things that I was inspired when I was younger. So definitely moving there and coming here, I definitely felt like, okay, I need to catch up to all these other kids that have been living, like I needed to catch up in terms of like what I know about the world or like what I know about the cities and like all these things, like all these little things that I feel like kids really think about was like my main focus. And I was just like, and just out wanting to do that and knowing where I come from and the things that I had to go through, I knew that I couldn't just settle for the things that I'm just for fun. Like couldn't just do things for fun. I had to do things like, okay, this is going to make the future me happy. That's kind of how I look at things. Is just like, okay, what can I do right now that will make the future me happy? And how far can I take it? And I feel like that's where most of my drive come. And, just seeing things that I didn't really have when I was younger and wanting to do those when I'm older and making sure that my little brothers and hopefully maybe in the future when I have kids, they can, yeah.
Let me ask you a bit about some of the portrait work and the fashion work, because it's, you talked about this idea of liking beautiful things and that evolution, but there's a lot more to your portrait and your fashion work. There's something deeper going on. There's some commentary and clearly, there's photojournalism is in your, in your work somewhere. So do you feel that the portraiture and even some of the fashion work has statements that are just outside of the beauty of the image?
No, definitely. I think the fashion works and pretty much everything in photography, everything in life definitely have a statement. You could be a woodworker, you could be doing anything. I feel like everything has a statement, especially fashion, right? Overall, what I'm trying to say is pretty much that like, it doesn't matter what you do. I feel like everything has a statement. And even with fashion, I feel like I want to like the way my work is diversified in terms of like the people I photograph. You see in my work, I photograph people from different culture, different genders, different interests and stuff like that. And I think that's the beauty of it for me. And I would like to see everybody doing something like that. And I think people should all diversify the kind of work that they do and the interests they have, because I think that's just, I don't know, it's just much more cooler.
I want to talk about two different series. There's one that you just call the Body series. And, I think it's your friend, the same model that you spoke of, who's got this, really beautiful body and tons of muscles. And you're putting these subtle green lights and purple and red on his body. And it's just incredible. So I want to ask a little bit about that experimentation. Is there a lot of that? Are you always moving lights around and trying to find, or having him move around to try to find the right spot and the right reflection?
Yeah, with Nate, it's so funny. It's like whenever I'm doing personal project, my friend Nate, he's always my go-to. Working with him never is really work. It's just us collaborating, like he always get to use the images for himself and I always get to use them for my portfolio. So whenever I have like a personal project, he's always my go-to and he knows how I work and he knows how I think and he knows what I mean when I say certain things. So we work very well together. So like when I first started doing the Body series, he was the first subject that I decided to deal with because I know he would, like, I would learn from him, like, because in order for me to be able to be like, okay, cool, I want to have other models here, I want to have them do this, I have to know exactly what I'm doing. And he's always patient with me, and that's how those idea came out. I just had the idea in my head and I was like, okay, let's get the studio, do it. And this was before COVID. Michael Kamensky from Juice Pharma, he was so nice enough to let me use his studio. Me and Nate went in there. We pretty much locked ourselves into the studio for 6 hours, and then we were just experimenting. It wasn't really like I didn't really go into the studio and knowing this is what I want to walk away with, but I knew what I wanted to create, if that makes sense at all. I was, my brain was open for experimentation. So like I would do the lighting. I'm like, okay, cool. Like I don't, like 2 hours into, I'm like, I don't really like this. And we'll just break it all down, start it all over. He would throw some ideas to me. He was like, okay, maybe if I do this, maybe this would like, we'll get this and things like that. And that's how me and him collaborate. And then that kind of set the base on what I wanted to do next when I had the other model and so on.
It seems like there's a lot of work that, and of course, I'm looking at your website now, and there's a range of stuff you do, and so, and as we've been discussing, but and even some of your, the fashion and portrait work, there's experimentation with movement. That's asking the models to move, or because of the flash, or maybe even some multiple exposure work in there. I don't know.
Yes, definitely. I love shooting with slow shutter speed photos. When I was at NYC SALT, the after school program, when I was there, some of the assignments that they would give us to just they expose us to a lot of different style of photography, just so we could get to pick and choose which one we enjoy doing and go on with that. I kind of grasp a little bit of everything, and sometimes they'll be like, go out today, your assignment is to photograph interesting shadows. We'll go out and they would give us 2 hours in the middle of Midtown. We'll go roll around Midtown. And this was like when I was a student at the program, of course. We'll go out on the street, we'll photograph shadows, and then we'll come back. You'll see all these beautiful shadow work that all these students have, and then you see yours, and then you just compare and get feedbacks and things like that. Or then the next day they'll be like, okay, today, stranger danger. You have to take a shoulder up photo of a stranger on the street. You have to figure out how to approach them, how to get them to let you photograph them. And the photos have to be close up. So like, you have to be under, you can't be from far away to tell that you. They taught us how to interact with people, how to interact with strangers, and how to do all these different kind of works. And I feel like I brought a little bit of all of that into my work. You asked me to do a creative slow shutter speed photo. I will go out there and do that for you. You want a real estate photography. Like I've have experience.
You ever do a bar mitzvah? I'm just curious.
Wait, what's a bar mitzvah?
Last time,
that's a whole other episode. Okay.
Wait, you gotta explain this to me.
Hey, Alan, go ahead.
Okay, all right. When a Jewish boy turns 13 years old, he officially becomes a man, okay? And it's just to celebrate. And usually they throw a lavish party, and there's always a photographer.
I get. No, I haven't done that yet. But there was a one time in photography where I would like photograph families. Like they'll invite me into their family to photograph like their whole family, so they could have it for their family picture. And I remember spending a day with this Jewish family and photographing their family, like from like the babies to the great grandmother and things like that. And it was funny because I'm Muslim. I was born and raised as a Muslim kid. And then I remember just telling someone there, and then we were just making a joke about it. It doesn't really relate to what we're saying, but it just reminded me of that. But
that's Brooklyn right there in a nutshell.
That's Brooklyn. Exactly. That's it.
So let me ask you, is there, with all this stuff that's happened this summer, and all the, the response to your work, what's next? Are you going to be doing some fashion work? Do you have all assignments, or are you going to do some editorial and photojournalism work? What's going on next?
Well, I think a little bit of everything. For me, I just feel like right now I'm just looking to continue developing my work, and every chance I get on my free time, I'm always experimenting. I'm always trying things that I haven't done yet in terms of personal projects. I'm currently prepping myself because for the last 10 years that I've been living in America, I was undocumented pretty much. I just had a green card, and I couldn't travel outside of the country. I could only travel in the States. So last year, thanks to Drew Morris, the law firm, they helped me get my passport. So I just became a citizen literally a few weeks before the election day.
Wonderful.
So this year my goal is to go back to home after 10 years since leaving for the first time ever. and just kind of, showing them the new things that I've learned since I've been away, and also learn all the things that I've missed out on, and then document that along the way, and hopefully bring my fashion work back home and see what I could do to show the world what my home is like. So that's my next goal for the next few months.
That's great.
Yeah.
Great answer.
Wow.
Congratulations. That's wonderful.
Before we sign off here, it's the end of another podcast. If people want to see more of your work, where should they go?
The first place I direct people to is my website. It is malikesidibe.com, which is Malikesidibe.com. And my Instagram is my full name, Malike Sidibe. And those are the main things that I publish my work on. So if you want to see or have any questions or things like that, my email is on my website, or you could send me a quick DM, and I always reach back when I can.
It's great stuff. And by all this information will be in our show notes. So if you didn't have a chance to write that down, fear not, they are in the show notes. And again, Malike, it was terrific speaking to you today. Thank you so much for joining us. And I actually will look forward to having you back after you come back from the Ivory Coast to let us know how you made out there and any kind of insights you might have had.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I look forward to speaking to you again.
That would be a great show.
Thank you.
Anyway, there's no reason to sit around like a Cocker Spaniel waiting for the mailman while you're waiting for the next B&H podcast to go live. We'll notify you the moment it happens. Trust me on this one. All you have to do is go to wherever you snag your favorite podcast and type in B&H Photography Podcast, hit enter, and boom, you are mishpacha. It's that simple. You can also find us on the B&H Explorer website and on the B&H Photography Podcast Facebook group. For now and forevermore, my name is Alan Weitz, and on behalf of John Harris and Jason Tables, thank you oh so much for tuning in today.